I'm Andrea. We've been going through the adventure of this coronavirus outbreak and all staying separate from each other, and that means that it takes a long time to get a haircut. So every time I do a video, my hair is a little bit longer. Today we're going to talk about the book of Tobit, but actually the character in there that I care the most about is Tobiah, and he was the son of Tobit. So in this story, we've got actually three different stories happening at the same time. One is happening in the town of Nineveh, which is a big city. The other one is happening in the big city of Ecbatana. And then we have something happening in heaven. Three different things happening at the same time. So Tobit, the father, is asking for help from God because he wants a wife for his son, and he also wants to be cured of his blindness. Then Sarah, who is in Ecbatana, is praying for a husband because she has had a hard time. Every night that she marries a husband, then the husband is dead before morning because of a demon. That's a terrible thing to happen. So she's already gone through 7 husbands that way, and they've buried each one of them the next morning. And so she would really like to have a husband that makes it all the way through the night. And the third story going on is that Raphael, one of the archangels, is standing in front of the throne of God and reading the recording of the prayers of Tobit and Sarah. How wonderful to think that someone is reading the recording of the prayers that we send to God. They're never ignored. God cares about all of our prayers. So in these stories happening at once, story number 1 and story number 2 are all about the exile to the Assyrians. And this is what happened to the 10 tribes in the north. This was hundreds of years before Judah and Benjamin were exiled to Babylon. This is the exile to Assyria. And the great cities of Assyria were Nineveh and Ecbatana. Now, if you read the book of Jonah, which is only 4 pages long, and I hope you will read it, then you will find out a lot about Nineveh. If you read anything about Alexander the Great, which I've done a lot of, is that you will find out about the town of Ecbatana. But both of these families, Sarah's family and then also Tobit's family, were descended from Naphtali, and Naphtali was one of the sons of Jacob. One of the works of mercy that Tobit did, we have our works of mercy like feeding the hungry, visiting the prisoners, burying the dead. Well, one of the things he did was bury the dead. And it was actually against the law. If a Jew died, nobody was going to pick him up and bury him. And so Tobit was doing something that was dangerous, but that was a good work of mercy. And he became blind because of an accident that you can read all about in the book of Tobias. He knew he had some money in Medea. Now, Medea is a place that we read about where Moses was when he found out about the burning bush. He was in Medea. But Medea gets to be a little bit of a complicated story. So there was a man named Rages who had some money that belonged to Tobit. And so Tobit said to his son Tobiah, he said, why don't you go down and get that money and take somebody with you who kind of knows the territory, and so you'll be safe, and then go to my old friend Rages. Okay, so Tobiah decided he would do that because that's what his father wanted him to do. So now this second story happening at the same time is Sarah, who had the problem that she was praying and praying for a husband who would not die. Well, of course, he died someday, but not right away. And then what God decided to do when he heard the recording of these prayers, he decided to send one of his important angels, down to the Assyrian Empire to help Sarah and to heal Tobit all at the same time. So sometimes we think God is not listening, but it can happen that God is solving several problems all at the same time, and it's very complicated. So Tobiah went outside and looked for a traveler, and he just happened to find a man named Azariah, who was friendly and knowledgeable and knew the roads and Wow, he was just thought he was so lucky to find this man named Azariah. Well, we know that it was the archangel Raphael. But he said he introduced himself as Azariah. And on the journey, they caught a fish. And Azariah said, you should save that fish's liver. You just never know when a fish's liver might come in handy. And so, kind of stinky old fish's liver. But Tobiah took the advice of Azariah, who was actually Raphael, and saved the fish's liver. And we'll find out more about that fish's liver as we go on with our story. So he went to Rage's house. He got the money. That was not a problem because they had receipts where Rages had half of the receipt and then Tobit had half of the receipt, and they could match them up and find out that, yes, indeed, Tobiah wasn't making it up, that he was really the son of Tobit. And he fell in love with Sarah. Well, of course, that's just what Sarah wanted. And the mom and dad said, well, we don't think this husband's going to last all the way through the night because he'll probably be killed by the demon. But they're in love. Let's go ahead and let them have a wedding. So they had a beautiful wedding. And then the night began. Sundown came. The night began. And secretly, Ragel and his wife went out to dig a grave for Tobiah because they thought he wasn't going to last through the night. But when they woke up in the morning, can't go there yet. I have to tell you what happened. There was a demon, and the demon was a very bad person. Well, he was a very bad demon. Demons aren't real people. Demons are just like helpers for Satan. And so they're not real people, and they're not good. They're not good spirits at all. So the demon thought, aha, we got an eighth husband here. I'm going to kill him and eat him for dinner. But what happened was that Tobiah still had the fish liver. I told you it would come in handy. And so he burned the fish liver, and it smelled so horrible that the demon said, I'm getting out of here. I don't remember ever having smelled anything as yucky as fish liver, and I'm getting out of here. So he did. And the next morning, when Sarah woke up, her husband was alive. And when Rages and his wife woke up, they found out husband number 8 is alive. They were so excited. And so they gave Tobiah all the money that they had agreed on for his father. And they had a 14-day wedding feast. Now, as you know, 7 is pretty special in Hebrew culture. 7 is a special number. Remember, Jesus said, forgive people 70 times 7. So 7 is a very special number. But imagine 14 days. Well, then that's even more special because that's twice as many as 7. So Sarah, the new wife, and Tobiah, the newlywed, with the money, and Azariah, they went back to Nineveh. And Sarah got to meet her new family, and Tobit was healed. So Tobit said, it's time to pay Azariah because look at all the good he's done for us. Azariah, you can have a third of all this money. And Azariah said, I need to tell you the truth. The truth of the matter is that I am Archangel Raphael, and I'm the one who read your prayers to God our Father, God the Almighty, sitting on his throne. I read that prayer to him, and he said, we're going to do something about healing Tobit and healing the situation in Sarah's house all at the same time. So Tobit and his wife grew old and finally died. And after they died, then, although they'd been living in Nineveh for years and years, Tobiah and his wife Sarah went back to Ecbatana, lived there permanently, and then they took care of their old Sarah's parents as they grew older. And they had many children and lived happily ever after. So that's a happily ever after story from the Bible. Now, when I grew up, I didn't know about the story of Tobiah because I had been raised on the Protestant Bible, which is missing 7 books. So Catholics are really, really lucky that they get to have all 73 books instead of only just 66 books. So all 73 books, and be sure that you take the time to read those extra books. And one of the most important ones is Tobit. So thank you for joining me for the story of my friend and our friend Tobiah. Next time, we're going to be talking about St. Peter.